Thank you so much for joining in. I'm Oscar Blue for Real America's Voice News. It is today. It is the 13th of May of the year 2024, Monday. Uh, this video, um, I'm doing this video because the topic says that they're running out of answers. And who am I referencing to that they're running out of answers? It is not only but the NGOs. Now that a lot of the people are waking up and they know the dangers and how these non-governmental organizations, the majority are taking advantage of people and living out of the vulnerabilities and human misery. Now that this is happening and a lot of people are waking up and they're knowing. And just for everybody to know, Weapons of Mass Migration, the best documentary that has been done until this moment of the mass migration, what is occurring to the United States, and also from the Darien, explaining specifically weapons of mass migration done by Epoch Times with lead and head correspondent Joshua Phillips. I'm in there. A lot of people are in there. Recommend for you to go and watch it, please. Go and watch it, please. I'm going to put an extract of a video right now as soon as we start hitting on the topic. But this is the number one situation which I want to talk about. The new president of Panama wants to close the Darien Gap, wants to shut down the Darien. Immediately after he starts doing it, a lot of NGOs, defenders of human rights, they're saying that it is inhuman and that it is violating the own human rights, and that ultimately a lot migrants are going to look for other routes for them to be crossed, be smuggled into the dangerous pathways of the Darien. Is it going to slow down the pace? Yes, absolutely. If he puts, I don't know how he's going to do it. But look how these international governmental organizations, how they are with the same ideas of the cartel. These people prefer that the migrants suffer the horrible consequences of migrating through the Darien than helping them creating a better pathway. This is video from my third journey with Ben Berquam and Real America's Voice News inside of the Darien. Meanwhile, I'm speaking, I will put everything in perspective and showing the video. This is raining season. Right now in Panama, inside of the Darien Gap, it is raining season. This was our third time inside the Darien. They prefer this. They will prefer not finding another humanitarian pathway for them to migrate, or a solution in their countries, or better, even better, even better, finding a solution for them to not be asked a visa, another solution for them to move them inside that is not the Darien. Why they are pushing and attacking the Panamanian president? Because this is a business for them. They live out of humanitarian crisis. It's not even about defending the human rights of people. Look at this. Look at this. These are people from Asia, people from all across the world. This is me crossing the river. It's horrible. It's the worst things that I have ever been endured, and I have ever crossed and walked and documented in my life. And these NGOs, instead of protecting, instead of fighting for the human rights of the people, instead of fighting for the human rights of the migrants, they're attacking a president which wants to end the organized crime from taking advantage of migrants. And not only that, from violating their own human rights, and from migrants dying. Migrants are dying inside of the Darien. These people do not understand. And if they understand, they know that they prefer that pathway instead of creating a safer pathway, instead of creating a pathway which a lot of the people will not die. The own global compact of migration talks about safe, regular, documented, and a peaceful migration. Just tell me, to all these NGOs, this is safe, this is regular, this is documented, this is peaceful. It is all about money. And they know that if this gets shut down, The cartels on the other side of Colombia, they will run out of business. The NGOs on the other side of Colombia, they are not going to make money. The so-called tourist guides and tourist packages, they will end. People selling products for them to migrate, camping tents, stoves, and all this kind of stuff that they're making money out of human misery and people risking their lives and losing their lives. They're not going to make money anymore. They're going to stop using our people for their benefit and for their political agenda. And meanwhile, the Panamanian president, it is risking and saying, I'm going to try to shut it down. This is not a route. Children drown. Look at this toddler being carried by a heroic Centrefront agent, which these authorities are being attacked completely and constantly by NGOs saying that they're the ones that they're inhuman. Look at this. Look how he's carrying. Look how these people are helping. The inhuman ones are them. That they're pushing this narrative for people to migrate consistently. And now that the migration is going to stop through this particular route that is horrible. Oh no, they want this to continue. And you know, the most cynical thing about this is that now they're using a term, of course, the denigrating term. We have to use that narrative. The media, the mainstream media, the leftist media, the pandering, the romanticizing of the media, the ones that they use this to romanticize and they use the suffering of people to make money. Now they want to use exactly the term of, because they want to shut down the Darien. They want people to stop dying. They want people to start, they want the cartel to stop benefiting out of the human misery. Now they want to use the term wall. So they're now, the leftist media is saying the new wall of South America, which is going to be the Darien. They're going to block the Darien. So you prefer, I'm asking all these NGOs, none of you have been into this. I have been into this 4 times. None of you have suffered these consequences. They're horrible. Look at this child. It has to be carried on the hard current. Look at the other child being carried by a heroic agent on top. Just look at that. This is not a safe pathway, but you guys are pushing and pushing, and now you're going to use the narrative of language. Of course, that is what you do. You know, you use the leftist, progressive, you know, mercenary, communist, socialist, Marxist, activist, liberal uses the language, and the mercenary leftist media uses the language of white supremacy, white imperialism, creating hysteria, fearmonger, conspiracy theories, xenophobic, transphobic, homophobic, pronoumphobic, fatphobic, racist, fascist, narcissist, bigot, Zionist, free Palestine, from the river to the sea, all this stupidity language to manifest and to defend and continue with this crisis instead of fixing it. But the NGOs, now they're attacking the new current president of Panama because he wants to shut it down. They have never been on this horrible pathway, and now they're calling it a wall. Of course, let's use the same term that the Republicans. Now let's use it over there. And not only that, let's use the right-wing extremism to criticize them and to make them inhuman, that the authorities said it's their fault. But meanwhile, look at this. This is evidence. Look at this. Thank God that I have been, you know, Ben Berquam and myself, we have been in there showing the reality of this, showing what it is about. This is the horrors that you know, that migrants go. We have seen decomposed bodies, migrants' lives being lost inside of the Darien Gap. You know, this is sad. These NGOs, they never, you know, they never experienced this. They never have walked the trail. You see in migrants right here crying, this woman hugging her child because they never understood that this is not a pathway. This is not a road. This is not a route to migrate. Thank God that we have been in there documenting this to trying to attack the disinformation of the leftist media, because the left goes in there and panders and talks about the other narrative. We talked about the truth. This cannot be happening to our people. It is sad. It is Just horrible. Before I move on, buy me a coffee. It is right there, pinned in the chat on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm going to be traveling soon, but I cannot do it alone, people. I need your support. I'm independent, so I need your support to keep informing you guys and keep on going. We have been doing this for years, so we need your support. Inevitably, we need your support. So buy me a coffee is right there. Come on, guys. I'm trying to move to South America. I'm trying to move to Central America. Cannot do this alone. To continue. So let me just, after I did that, thank you so much for your support. So after I'm explaining this. Why am I explaining this? Because I want you to see something. This is what I want you to see. This was Univision. Immediately after they said and they heard that particularly the Darien was going to be closed. Look what Univision puts immediately. And it's in Spanish, but I will translate. It says, un muro más al sur, another wall more in the south. And then they said, could the new elected president of Panama close, quote unquote, the migration routes more transitated in the Darien? Why do you have to use that word wall? That's the narrative, the language. It is so important for them to use it because they're comparing it to the wall over here in Mexico with the United States with Trump. So they had to bring that right-wing extremism to their narrative, not thinking that particularly shutting down the Darien will save so many lives. So many children will be saved from suffering. They have never walked this route, but for them to put out a statement and an article, it is so important for them to let everybody know that that is the new wall. That president is bad. That president is racist. That president is a fascist. That president is a white supremacist. That president is violating human rights. That president is violating the rights of migrants. He's not letting them move through the Darien. How dare he? So actually, these medias, instead of saying, he's going to close the Darien, let's see what other pathway he can find, because that is a horrible journey. It's a bad place for people to migrate. Instead of supporting the fact that he's trying to end the horrors and the abuse of the cartel that they work on the other side of Colombia, where they're being smuggled through Acandí, Capurganá, Turbo, the entrances through the Darien, where the migrants are paying tourist packages from $320, $340, $350. Instead of supporting that to stop that, what these medias they're doing is just saying the wall to make it look like they're violating a right when they're actually, this president is trying to save lives. And none of these medias, they're talking about the huge environmental disaster that this is causing. None of them. None of them they're talking about the humongous environmental disaster. But the only thing that I can tell you is that immediately these NGOs they attacked, like Medics Without Borders. They're talking about the huge violence that right here on this article that the migrants go through inside of the Darien. So they're contradicting themselves, because you're saying, oh, there's a huge amount of violence that migrants go through inside the Darien. Yes, I documented that. We were in a gunfight where the heroic agents of Panama saved migrants' lives, and they went one-on-one with the Cartel El Golfo, which it was raping, abusing, and stealing from migrants inside of the Darien. So you're telling me that the migrants are suffering a lot of consequences inside of the Darien. So what will be the solution? Let's close it and let's save lives and let's find another pathway. No, for you is they're suffering, but we want it to continue. Why you want it to continue? Why all these international spokesmen want this to continue? Because they live out of the crisis. Because there's a lot of business now. Because I have said it multiple times. It is a business now. It is a humanitarian business now. It is not about finding a way for migrants to a better life, because if it was about that, I have talked to so many migrants from all across the world, and all of them, I have asked them, do you have human rights in your country? And they say no. Do you have human rights in Venezuela? They say no. Do you have human rights in Ecuador? They say no. Do you have human rights in Haiti? They say no. Do you have human rights in Africa? They say no. Are you being persecuted by Xi Jinping and the CCP to the migrants of Asia? They say yes. Why are you not there? Why are you on the epicenter where it's mobility? On Exhibit A to Exhibit C. Exhibit A, Nicocli, Colombia, where it all starts. Exhibit C in the migrant camps outside in Panama, in Bajo Chiquito. Why you're only located through there? Because you know that that is the flow for the business. You know that. And instead of trying to stop this horror that I'm just showing you right here of children in the middle of the river almost drowning, children being carried out of the currents of the river, women carrying children on the back of their backs, risking their lives to a better pathway because they can, the NGOs and the international organizations, they haven't been capable of finding another pathway. Why? Because you need the crisis to continue. It has become a humanitarian business now. It is so profitable that mom and pop businesses now, they're making a lot of money out of it. Hotels, shopping carts, packages, tourist packages, coyotes, traffickers. It is a global business now. It is millions. And when you are attacking these people and you're saying it's enough of taking advantage of humanity, immediately they play the role of the victim and they use their language barrier of defense. What is the language barrier? The new wall. Oh wow, the new wall. No, now the president of Panama is trying to build the wall in the Darien. He's so bad. It's so bad. No borders, no walls, no country at all. Let them all transit for whatever they want. Let them continue risk their lives. Let them continue to pay the cartel so the cartel can get stronger and stronger and make millions and millions and millions and have power over borders, where all these countries, they're incapable of fighting the cartel because the cartel has become 3 times stronger, 3 times stronger, 3 times with technology, 3 times stronger with artillery, as they have become in the borders with Mexico and the United States, where the cartel knows that the open border gaps and the open border wall, they're making millions out of it. They know that where there's an open border gap, just a kilometer away from the migrant walking, there's going to be who? The NGO, taking care of them, giving them, wipes, giving them Pampers, giving them all of these things and amenities for them to be received and then to be processed to DHS, released to an NGO, and released to population. So the cartel is not stupid. They know that crossing, they're going to be somebody to receive them. Exactly, the cartel knows that they're going to make a tourist package, and when they enter Colombia, take them all the way to the middle of the jungle, pay them with guides that they're going to basically just protect them in the middle of the jungle and the Colombian side. And from the Colombian side is bye-bye, have a nice day. Let's see somebody take care of you. Let's see who takes care of you. But on the Colombian side, we don't rob you. No, we don't steal from you. They don't suffer rape. Why they don't suffer that? Because if you have those complications on the Colombian side, your business will have a red flag. So you control that route for order to be safe. So the money and the business continues, right? Colombian side. So you don't have rape, you don't have abuse, you don't have nothing going on the other side. Why? Because you have to make it look to the migrants that it's safe for them to create that pathway and that road on the Colombian side. But when they get to Panama, oh, it's all bad. It's the natives that they're robbing. It is the same agents that they're doing this. And you have infiltrated Colombian cartel members infiltrating into Panamanian territory and stealing and robbing and taking advantage of people. blaming Panamanian authorities, blaming the Panamanian territory, but nothing happens on the Colombian side. Why? Because that is where the business starts. That is where all the business goes forward. You cannot have those bad animosities and those open locks on the Colombian side. Why? Because that is where it starts. You don't have to be, you don't want to give a bad reputation over there. No, 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 no. The idea for the migrant is that it is not in Colombia. Where it's bad is over there in Panama. The migrant doesn't understand that they're paying a trafficker consistently these tourist packages, and they're making money out of them, out of their human misery, out of their human suffering. And at the meantime, they're risking their lives, and they're losing their lives inevitably. It is the reality. At the same time, that this is not stopping, the most lucrative institutions, they're making money out of it. And they want this to continue and continue and continue. And their only defense is to use the language. They're building a wall in South America. They're fear mongering. They're white supremacists. Look at this president, right wing extremist. It's kind of close to Darien. Meanwhile, this is happening. People are losing their lives. If you ask a migrant among everybody, do you know that will you consider, will you do this again? Will you do this again? Will you go through the Darien Gap? And they say no. Imagine if a migrant says, I will never do it again. Imagine us, Ben Berquam and myself, we have done it 4 times. Why we go in there and why we have done it 4 times? Because we want to completely, really save lives. I am concerned for migrants. I'm a migrant myself. I believe that migration is a human right, but in those human rights, there's laws, and we need to obey those laws and those processes. But at the same time, the NGO is using us, and it is not educating us correctly of how to migrate. Why? Because they live out of a crisis, and they know if they shut down the Darien, there's not going to be no business whatsoever. I want to take a pause here and say thank you to Denise. Denise, thank you so much for the coffees. Also, Brenda, thank you so much for the coffees. And also, One Tired Mama, thank you so much for the coffees. Buy me a coffee. It is right there, pinned in the chat on Facebook and also on YouTube. Your support is much needed, people. We need to travel. We need to go, and we need to bring you guys news. Without your support, we cannot do it. So it's right there. I'm trying to make it to Armenia. I'm trying to make it to the Middle East. I'm trying to make it to South America. We're trying to go to Brazil to show the reality over there with Lula. Also, we need your support more than ever. So this is the reality. This is what is actually happening. So you have all these leftist media now that they are particularly, the narrative is to attack the new president and to make them understand that closing it is not the solution. Why? Because the NGOs are going to run out of business. Weapons of Mass Migration. It is the new documentary that has been released, and it is the best documentary that has been done to explain the reality of what is actually happening in caravans, Darien Gap, mass migration through the borders of the United States and Mexico, and why this is all orchestrated using the most vulnerable people for a political gain and an agenda. This is an extract of a video of the weapons of mass migration of the epoch times that we participated heavily. And I am talking here about the current situations and everything that I have documented inside of the Darien, and how these NGOs immediately, when they know that the authorities are trying to do something about this crisis, they attack them. That's exactly what they did to Nayib Bukele in El Salvador. He fixed the crisis and he fixed the problem, but the NGOs now started attacking him, defending the criminals that they used to extortion, kidnap, and assassinate innocent lives in El Salvador. That is the MS gang. Exactly like that, it is happening right here. And the beautiful thing about this is that millions are waking up to the strategies of these NGOs, and millions are understanding that these NGOs, they live a humanitarian suffering. The inhumane conditions that migrants are living in South America and Central America are horrible. Why this is continuing and where's all the money of the NGOs? This is an extract of the video of the current video, an extract of a video of the Darien Gap. And after this, I will read. More copies are coming in. I will read who's participated and who's helping. Thank you so much. Buy me coffees right there. Let us and there's a question right here before I go on. It is you, the American taxpayer. The majority of these NGOs and the high donor to the United Nations, it is the United States of America. That's it. It has been explained on this documentary, Weapons of Mass Migration, that the highest donor to the United Nations, it is the United States of America. So the majority of these NGOs, they're living out of the American taxpayer. Just not too far from now, it has been approved 7.6 or 7 point something billion dollars for NGOs in the United States of America, and it has been approved to be released. Look at this extract of how I explain things. This is the reality. I have been talking about the global compact of migration since I started broadcasting to every single one of you. I started explaining this is the number one problem. You guys need to understand this is the number one problem, the global compact of migration of the United Nations. And look where it has gone. Completely destabilized borders around the globe. Completely the opposite of fixing a problem, creating a problem. Here we go.
Ortega witnessed the true power of these NGOs. When a nation like Panama cracks down on the cartels, secures their border, and saves lives, the NGOs sound the alarm, the UN files suit, and the mainstream press begins a smear campaign.
And they're getting attacked by these globalists, making them look inhuman when they, save lives and they protect their own sovereign nation. That's what they do.
What have you seen in terms of these guys defending the migrants? What have you personally witnessed?
What I witnessed three times that I have been in, but they saved again thousands from being robbed, thousands from being abused, and they saved a lot of children from drowning at their way out. The river was really high and it was really difficult to get out.
We understand that in Panama, if the government tries to enforce border laws, they get sued by the NGOs. It seems like Centerfront is trying its best to provide security for something that they're being overridden by international powers.
That's the main problem of this issue. It is the global compact on migration that is perpetuated by the United Nations, and the United Nations has power over governments because they make them sign this global compact. There's more than 154 countries that gives the ability to NGOs to work freely in these poor countries. I was walking in a caravan and the Intelligence Department of Mexico told us, the journalists, you have infiltrated individuals from the violent group Tren de Aragua cartel operates from a prison in Venezuela. And I recorded this, one of the migrants was threatening a National Guard with a knife. He was telling them that if they will not give them papers, there will be blood shed on that soil.
They're throwing rocks.
It is really sad to see that.
They're hitting the National Guard officers.
The United Nations aids that to continue. The NGO, instead of stopping people from suffering and stopping people from being trafficked and abused, what they're doing is aiding the cartel to continue and continue and continue and continue.
The NGOs, through this process, are aiding and abetting the cartels.
Yes. They're not educating the migrant to do a process correctly. They're violating their own global compact on migration. Because in the global compact says you need to migrate safely, regular, documented, and peaceful. We have seen that all four of them, they're not compliant by the global compact on migration, and they're blaming every institution of security. So they're basically creating a crisis, they're creating chaos, and the only ones that they have the solution, it is them. Now it is a business, Josh. It is not migration because people are suffering. For these NGOs and the cartels and other organizations, it is a humanitarian business now.
Mr. Ortega.
This is my part. And I think that I explain it to every single one of you, and I have been explaining. I want to thank Pam. Thank you so much for the coffees. And Anonymous, also thank you so much for 5 coffees. Buy me a coffees right there. Thank you so much. Your contributions are well needed right now. Thank you, and thank you. Contribution to this documentary. I think that, Weapons of Mass Migration, the new documentary by the Epoch Times, it is it's perfectly well done. And perfectly well explained. There's other parts where you have Todd Bensman explaining the situations with debit cards that they're being given out in the borders. Also, you have the geographical explanation by Michael Young. Also, you have different immigration experts that they're talking about. Also, the global compact on migration. Also, you have officials that they work in the borders and they're saying we don't have any power over, and we don't even know who is coming in, and we're not even allowed to know because the NGOs have this power. So why the NGOs have this power over every border? It is because of the international treaty, international global compact of migration, that this has the power internationally of the humanitarian right for people to transit freely, and the authorities cannot interfere with that human right through a port of entry or a non-port of entry. So who is in charge? They have their organizations, the NGOs, which they habilitate the transit, and they supposedly give attention and knowledge of how to do a process. So let me get this straight. So if you're telling me that these NGOs are the ones that they're helping and habilitating to know how the process is being done, so that is the reason why you don't want the Darien to be closed? Because or you're telling me that that is the process to migrate? When we know that that jungle, it is not a route, that jungle, it is a dangerous pathway, that jungle, it is the most horrible pathway for migrants. The video that it was shown on this part is all the caravans that we have walked, all that we have documented, every single thing. And I am, extremely happy that this is being shown to the world, that we know that this has become a humanitarian crisis since years and years ago, and that these NGOs are a huge problem and a huge part of this problem. Now, I have said this before, and I have said it again for years. Nobody is doing an audit to these NGOs. Nobody. The thing that needs to happen is immediately somebody needs to audit these NGOs and know their activity, know how they are performing their activity, where the money is going to, where the migrants are going to, where the children are going to, who is working on these NGOs, and if they have the capabilities and capacities and know the sensitivity of how to treat a problem like this, if they're well prepared, not only academically, but also if they are well prepared in their head to be on the ground dealing with a person that is running away from persecution. Ultimately, we don't know about this. We don't know who operates. So it is a big silent secret. It is a big secret. And as a human being on this planet that is looking at this catastrophe and this crisis, I want to know, what are you dealing and what are you doing on this process, and how you have been maintaining yourself. And this crisis continues. Why? I want to know why this crisis hasn't been fixed. I want to know specifically why this is continuing. Why this crisis continues and continues and continues and continues, and there's no solution for these people. Why migrants keep dying. Why children keep suffering. Why this pathway has become a normal pathway. Why migration for our people has to be on the back of a tractor trailer, has to be on a desert, has to be on a mountain, has to be that we have to pay the cartel to get smuggled when we supposedly are in a global compact of migration, that you are pushing supposedly for better migration, safe migration, regular migration, documented migration, and orderly migration. This is not safe. So it is a question that every single human being has, and also you have the authority to ask yourself. If you are an American in the United States of America, and it is the higher donate, the highest the highest donor to the United Nations, you have your right to know where that money is going to. You have your right to ask these NGOs, how are you helping? How are you habilitating this? Why are you not denouncing that on the other side people are being trafficked? Why are you not on the other side where people are being trafficked? And basically pushing the Mexican authorities to do something to stop this abuse. Because if you stop this abuse and if you start helping people to do it correctly, it will not become a business. It will not be profitable. You will not have cases of abuse at the borders. You will only have legitimate cases that they come for persecution. That's being done through a lawyer firm. Your process is being done correctly. You have to go to a shelter. From there, it is being managed to this, and that. And an NGO is not needed at the borders in an open border gap. You're not needed at the limb of the border. You're just needed when they're coming in, and you're just going to process them to wherever they are destined to go. But because you know that this is a business, and because you know that you need a crisis, you need this to continue. And now that you have a president in Panama that is trying to close the Darien, and it is trying for this crisis to stop and this abuse to stop of cartel members, of people that are just taking advantage and benefiting out of this humanitarian crisis, and flipping the narrative and using their language now that is a wall. No, it's not a wall. It's saving lives. Saving lives. The NGOs, the international organizations, they need to sit down with the governments and know how they are going to resolve this to create a better pathway for migrants. That pathway that Joe Biden lied to the whole migration community. He said, I'm going to create a better pathway for migrants, and has been the administration where more migrants have died between the limitations of Mexico and the United States. Has been the administration where more migrants have trafficked in the borders with Mexico and the United States. Has been the administration of the highest level of more smuggling of migrants into the United States. Has been the administration who has grown the cartels twice as stronger because of the level of millions and millions of dollars that this has become a business. Something that everybody's comfortable making. I have put multiple times an interview with a coyote inside of the Darien. This interview, this coyote talks about how much money is he making and how much money he was making when he was in the Darien. This interview, we caught it on the middle of the Darien, walking up on the jungle in Colombia. I sat down with this guy and he told me, I was making in Mexico, I was a coyote in Mexico, I was making $2,500 per trip, per person. I was taking them from Querétaro all the way, that's a south border state, central border state in our country, all the way to the borders of Texas. But things started to get heated. So I had to leave Mexico and come back to the Darien. I said, what are you doing over here? Now I'm a guide. I work for these tourist packages. So now I make money over here. And I was just like asking, how many times you go up and down? How much money do you make every time that you go up? Well, every time that I go up, I make $100, so and so. So I go up possibly, if the flow is good, I go up 2 to 3 times every day. You're talking about that this guy makes $200 to $300 a day. You're talking about that this guy, if he works 5 times a day, 5 times, if he works from Monday to Friday, he makes $1,500 just by walking up in the Darien and coming down. Isn't it a business now? And these guys come down and they enjoy the beautiful life of the coast, living out of people that they're being smuggled and the suffering of people going up a jungle. I'm not lying. This is the reality. Let me see if I can find this interview for people to understand. At the meantime, let me put this video right here so you guys can actually see the catastrophe and the crisis of this video, man. This is absolutely the reality. This is what these NGOs, they're defending to continue. They're not defending for this to be stopped. They're defending for this to continue. It is so sad. Sad. And this is horrible. I have been through these rivers, these hard currents, and it is hard to cross it. Now imagine me that we prepare ourselves physically and mentally to cross these rivers. Now imagine a person that is carrying a child. Imagine that. Let me just send this video right here and let me see if I can put it up right now. See if I can get it right here so you guys can see this interview by this coyote. Let me see. Watch this video as I am putting right here. This is the interview. Now, we got it. We got it right here. This is an interview. I got it right here. So it has the letters on the bottom so you guys can read it. I'm in the middle of the jungle. I'm going up in the middle of the jungle. This is our first time in the jungle. This is Ben Bearquam and myself going up the first time in the jungle. This is how a business has become, and this is what these NGOs, they want this to continue. So if you want to shut down the Darien, these people are going to lose their jobs. They're not going to have a self-income because they're living out of human misery. Look at this interview, and I will stop every time that I'm speaking so you can read the letters, the bottom letters, the subtitles. It's in Spanish because the coyote, he speaks only Spanish. But he basically tells me how much he used to make in Mexico. And now he works in the Darien. Now he works in the Darien. It's unbelievable, this. So let me just open up the screen so you guys can see right here why these NGOs want this to continue. Before I go, buy me a coffee is right there, pin in the chat. If you guys like to contribute to my independent reporting and travel fund, buy me a coffee is right there. It's much appreciated, your support. It's a 2-minute and I think it's a minute and 47 interview. Look at this coyote interviewed in the middle of the Darien. Look what he says.
Estamos con uno de los guías que prácticamente nos dice que él ya hacía este trabajo, pero allá.
Says on the bottom, we are here with one of the guides, and he tells us that he already did this job, but over in the borders of Mexico.
Las fronteras, por lo que sí es mi amigo.
México, Chihuahua. Pasaba gente
In Mexico, in Chihuahua, smuggle people as I was a coyote. That's what he says.
Está de coyote, pero por aquí uno no puede estar hablando tanto de eso porque se llama.
But here we cannot talk that much because of the place that we are located right now.
Entonces, lo relativo a eso es que nosotros
What relates is that now we try to help migrants a lot because
ahora tratamos de ayudarle mucho a los inmigrantes porque la corrupción que hay en Panamá de parte del gobierno allá roba.
look at this coyote blaming the Panamanian government. He's saying the corruption that exists in Panama from the government and they steal from the people when people don't contribute enough money. But you're making money out of human misery. Look how the narrative, how they flip this narrative, how they try to flip the narrative to make the migrant understand that they're not the bad guy, the ones that they're buying, the ones that they're actually being part of this tourist packages, the trafficker, the smuggler. They're not the bad guy. The bad guy is the institutions. Exactly the same narrative of these NGOs. Do you see the relation? Do you see how similar these people have their mindset?
Mucho a la gente cuando la gente no aporta tanto dinero. Pero qué pasa que nosotros estamos ahora apoyando a esa gente para que no lo roben tanto y no haya tanto de narcotráfico, ese control de gente que está aquí. Eso empieza desde Necoclí. Y se mete el policía para que ayuden a la gente, a apoyarlo en todo eso. Aquí en Capurganá eso es falso. Mucho más.
So I said, you cross people. It says the negotiation, the business starts from Colombia, right? But he says, I asked him, you cross people from Culiacan all the way to Chihuahua. Chihuahua is the state that is connected to Texas. And look what he says immediately.
Querétaro.
From Querétaro. Querétaro is a south border state, almost close to Mexico City. So this guy used to work as a Colombian for the Cartel of Mexico in the south border state of our country. From Querétaro, he used to pick them all the way and take them all the way to Chihuahua, that is the border state that connects to Texas. And I asked, how much you used to charge?
Querétaro y Chihuahua, en camionetas privadas. Porque ya hoy en día hay que saberlo ocultar, porque ya la gente no.
And I used to smuggle them on private vans, private automobiles. You know, and it says we have to be really careful now because people, they carry a lot of cameras, a lot of infiltrated people.
Se deja ver tanto de mucha gente lleva mucha cámara, mucho infiltrado. Entonces, yo lo que te puedo decir es eso.
¿Cuánto cobraban?
Cobraba de México allá por persona 2,000.
So I said, how much did you charge? And he says, from Mexico to over there, $2,500.
$500.
Usaban.
Vine porque hubo mucha matanza y me tocó venirme a Colombia.
¿Tú qué eres?
Yo trabajaba de coyote allá.
¿Pero qué entidad eres? ¿De dónde eres?
Yo soy de aquí de Colombia.
Eres de Colombia.
Tengo nacionalidades panameña y colombiana. Y residenciaba en Medellín. Y me vine acá porque acá tengo parte de mi familia también. En Panamá, mucha familia también.
Muchas gracias.
Look how this coyote makes a lot of money. Now, this man gets paid every time. Now, he used to get paid $2,500 per person from Querétaro all the way to the borders of Chihuahua with Texas. You're talking about that if he drove, I don't know, four people to the borders, he's making $10,000. $10,000 on 4 people just driving them from Querétaro all the way to the borders with Texas. This was on 2023. This is our first time going up the Darien. How unbelievable is that? So he's making 10,000. How much time did he work over there? And now because things got heated in Mexico, possibly he got threatened and he had to return to Colombia. And now he's a guide inside of the Darien, not making enough money like he used to make, but he's still making. This is the man that I told you I interviewed, and he said, every time that I go up halfway and I come back, I make $100. Sometimes I go up 2 times. Sometimes when the flow is good and the migrants are walking fast, I go up 3 times. So when you're talking about shutting down the Darien and a president trying to shut down the Darien, he refers to these people that they're making money out of human misery and the cartel that is growing and making a lot of money and being powerful and taking over cities, taking over avenues and venues that they enter into the jungle. overpowering authorities, and there's a lot of corruption, making money out of human misery and vulnerabilities. He's talking about that. He's not talking about violating human rights. That's why the president of Panama said, we are going to shut down the Darien if we do it, respecting every human right. Isn't it unbelievable that now that something is being done to save lives, the NGOs immediately, they don't want to. They want to criticize, and now they're using the narrative of it's because of a new wall. It's a new wall. Thank you so much, Brandon, for the coffee. Thank you so much. Buy me a coffee. It is right there, pinned in the chat for people that want to contribute to my independent reporting and travel fund. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Well, this has been our report. We are 51 minutes going into this live chat. And I wanted to do, they're running out of answers. Why I put the title like that? Because they do not know how to defend themselves anymore. So now the perception that a lot of the migrants are understanding it is that, oh, you work for an NGO. Oh, okay. You now, so we know that you're living out of our, out of our human crisis. So what are you going to provide? The migrant is not, not knowledgeable anymore. They know that if they apparently they go and they immediately they are received by a NGO, what are you going to give me? Because you are here because of us. So now they're educated. They know about that. But the NGO does not want that to be known. They want this crisis to continue and blame the institutions and blame law and order. So they will have a narrative to attack the institution. And so they will make themselves look like a victim. It is psychological. It is so incredible how this strategy to continue with human suffering and making money out of it. It's unbelievable. But now you're running out of answers. You don't have no answers. When you have evidence that is being shown around the globe like this, that is being shown that people are crying in the middle of the jungle. This right here, it's so sad. I remember being in the middle of the jungle and looking at these families. Look at them, this woman, and crying over with her two kids, hugging one in the middle of the rain. That's the father right there standing, crying also. That's her other child on the bottom. She cannot even contain herself because she's like, I remember her telling me, I did not know that this was going to happen. I did not know that it was going to be this hard, this horrible. If I knew that it was going to be this hard, this horrible, I will not be trying. I will not try to continue with this. I will not risk my child's life with this. It's just unbelievable what this is continuing. It's unbelievable that the situation continues and continues and continues and continues and continues. But this is the actual situation, which is inevitably now trying to get stopped, and now they're trying to stop it. They're trying to stop it. They're trying to do something about it, and they're trying to find a solution about it, but nobody's finding the solution because inevitably this is one of the things they want this crisis to continue. They want this crisis to coexist. They're making money out of human misery. And it is a sad thing. But now people are finding out. This is about only having power over borders and having power over every institution. And at the same time, it is a business. Thank you so much for joining in. I'm Oscar Blue for Real America's Voice News. Thank you so much. It is 1:55 West Coast time. It is May 13 of the year 2024. God bless every single one of you. This buy me a coffee. It is right there, pinned in the chat on Facebook and also on YouTube. Thank you. Your support. It's much, much needed. We need to travel. We need to move on soon. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. Quick shout out to every single one of you that you guys are, you guys are supporting continuously our broadcasts, and you guys, they join our broadcast. We got almost 700 people on our live feed. Give it a like to this video, share this video. and share it to people that they don't know what is actually going on, what is actually happening. You, the American taxpayer, are the highest donor to the United Nations yourselves. So actually, you guys are the ones that are funding this, funding the NGOs, funding the United Nations, funding every single international organization that is operating without giving a solution, a solution to stop this crisis and to stop people from dying and to migrate safely into one country to another. What is the solution? Continuing making people walk? Is that the solution? Thank you to Joe Brandon for your donation. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. God, thank you. God bless you. Stay safe. And people, like we always say. Oh, before I go, follow our colleague Ben Berquam at all platforms. Follow our networks. Follow our pages and every Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and also TikTok. I'm in TikTok also. God bless you all. Stay safe. And like we always say, God's plan, it is our mission. Stay safe, people.